I'm recording this now. I think it's working. Let's hope for the best. All right, cool.
Cool.
Thanks, guys. I've come in. Good. Little chatty group. So now you want to talk. I'm sorry. We had this.
To be fair, it's really been much chattier than other groups have had, even coming in. I remember sometimes I've been here, it's been stone cold quiet. So well done to you guys. Good start.
So pretty much the point of tonight's seminar is, I suppose, to run over some really basic housekeeping for the challenge. Most of it we already know, and then talking about like an overview of kind of food and training, what we want from you guys, and then explaining a little bit about each one of these three, which then goes into detail. That's on Saturday, and how we talk about that and working out everything from Saturday. So this is kind of, we'll get you to go away with these and think about maybe where you think you would really sit and what would really work for you, because everyone's different and it needs to suit you and your lifestyle, how you eat, versus it being a really rigid kind of plan. Makes sense? Yeah, cool. I suppose like everyone's had their scans, yes. Like I've ticked up everyone, apart from you tomorrow, that's fine. Goals, everyone's goals back up from Jess, and Sunday sessions, everyone knows. So Sunday we're doing 8:30 to 9:30. You don't have to come to every Sunday session, but we'd like you to try and come to at least 4 if you can.
I understand it's hard over Easter and stuff as well with all that, but yeah, as much as you can, like we'll try and make them fun. A few different ones. Obviously we won't tell you exactly what they are, but it's good, especially for you guys, especially because we'll have a Facebook group with just you guys as well. So you guys will be interacting a lot more there. And then that's that time as well. Yes, we have a bit of a training session, but it's good for you guys to sort of bounce off each other and have a good chat, because you guys might not cross over when you guys come into the sessions here, some morning, some night. Obviously we're all here tonight, but it's a really good one where we can all come in, actually have a good chat, because like I said, you guys might not even see each other till the last week or until we do another little thing like this. So it's a really good one for Sundays for you guys to come in and sort of just debrief and just chat about things that you may be doing really well or struggling with as well.
Is it over and above what you're doing, or is it up to you? Like say, for example, I'm doing 5 sessions a week plus that 6.
Yes.
So is it over and above what you're doing, or
instead of? It really comes down, we're going to, I guess, talk about that a little bit, but it comes down to like how you're feeling, what your body feels and what you want to do. The only reason why I'd say 4, so just say maybe that would, if you are really sore one week, then have a day off and do the Sunday, just so you're at least getting in a couple, just so we can have a chat about different things. Especially we've got mini challenges, which I just posted today, you would have seen them. So mini challenges and stuff, so we can like debrief on them, explain what we're kind of doing, and just kind of like rally around the same thing. People struggling certain weeks, we can talk about that as a team. So we'd like you to all try and come to some Sundays, especially like the first one, maybe like the first Sunday and the last one. Okay. Oh, okay.
So if that means missing a session during the week, so for you, so obviously like a bit of rest would be necessary. You know what I mean? Sometimes some people it's hard to get you out of the gym. Yeah. So if we have to maybe sub in a Sunday for a regular, instead of a regular session.
Okay.
Yes.
Some can be on top of, depends how you're feeling.
It's good for that extra one. Obviously, we know everyone's really busy and like obviously work life coming back a little bit more normal now. So if you don't get that extra session throughout the week, then you do have that Sunday one there as like your extra banker as well. So no excuses not to hit your 4 sessions. So we know you guys can at least hit 3 coming in, and then that one will be your 4th one as well.
Cool. So
that, and then the PT session. So pretty much everyone should be locked in, I think, for all their times as well. Now, if anyone needs to reschedule those things, if we can, obviously, I know you because you're flexible times, you haven't done yours yet. But with most of them, guys, if you do need to reschedule or anything, please let us know as soon as possible, because we know a lot of the times whether you guys have or us probably will clash. So the sooner you guys can let us know whether you're sick or something, just so we can reschedule as quick as we can, just so we're not having to follow up maybe like 2 or 3 down the track and then trying to fit them all in, just so we can pretty much stay on top of our training with that. So that goes both ways. So please try and communicate with us the whole time as best we can. Now, on the first bit, on the commitment side, so a few things are written down, so I don't like to really read off my phone, but it's better than standing over there at the laptop. So obviously with these ones, exercise a privilege, not a punishment. So don't think of it as, oh my God, fuck, I have to be here. I have to, like, guys, this is fun. A lot of the times, like, you really realize, especially when you get injured, how much you really wish you can actually come back and finally train again. Candace, how you had your operation on your back, you weren't being able to do it for like exercise for a long time. Now that you are starting to come back into it, you don't want to stop, do it. So you really take those little things for granted. So guys, when you are in here, please try and enjoy your training as much as you can and use this as like a lot of fun as well. Okay, training doesn't have to be gut busting all the time. So when you are here, just think about it's fun, and we are trying to make obviously steps going forward as best we can. All other little things, just making sure expectation versus reality. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. I don't want you guys setting the bar. Obviously, it's good to aim for the stars, but let's just try and keep the bar here. That way we can constantly keep moving it, as opposed to we have it all the way up here and then we don't reach it. It's like, oh, fuck, I'm so far away. Well, let's just have it there and we'll just keep moving it all the way up every single time. All this stuff, obviously, it's not an overnight fix. Don't think that anything that we do, it's 8 weeks, let's grind ourselves into the ground. And then once that's usually done, it's like, oh, well, I can't maintain that. All the changes that we're trying to go through over the next 8 weeks, we want to be able to implement and then constantly keep moving forward over. So like I said, as Mia will go through with our food stuff and having things multifaceted and obviously stuff that are flexible. However, that's jazz, I forgot. Okay, so all those sorts of things that we do want to go towards, things can change. If you want to try and do any of these other food options, don't think that has to be your option the whole time. If that's not working, we can constantly change it. Same thing with your training, okay? But the biggest thing, obviously on that commitment stage, you guys have all wanted to come do this. We will try and meet you halfway. We'll give you as much information, as much time as we can, but we need that back the other way. That means if you guys aren't feeling the best work, let us know so we can work together as a team. You're not doing it solo, okay? Everyone's in it together. So the more we can communicate and everything, and you guys really knuckle down on this, you guys are going to get the best results possible.
Just with the commitment as well, what that means as well is just like, if we ask you to do something, like for example, I put here, I really want you guys, I'm going to send you guys a link to what, if you haven't yet already, I'm going to send you guys our nutrition before Saturday. I want you to watch the first 2 of those videos, okay? There's 2 of them, they're 4 minutes each. I want you to watch them. If you then come here on Saturday and you haven't watched it, that's showing that you're not committed, because I'm asking you for 8 minutes of your time. And if you can't give me 8 minutes of your time, then how are we meant to help you the other way around? Does that make sense? We need to, like, if we're asking something from you, we just need you guys kind of like, listen, if I should bring something, like, who brought their taking action sheet? Who didn't bring their taking action sheet? Okay, yeah, so do you, okay, on your phone, yeah. But do you see, so these things, I need the taking action sheet because we're going to go the taking action sheet today. Cool, does that make sense? So that's why I send a message to bring it. So when we do it, so if you ask something, if you try and like pay attention and listen, because that shows us that you're committed, and we're committed to you. We'll do anything for you guys, but it's very hard for us to do it back if you don't meet us halfway.
Well, and that goes for questions as well, obviously. So like communication going both ways. Do not sit there wondering and going, oh, I don't know, but no, that's probably a dumb question. There are no dumb questions. Please, for the love of God, ask us anything that pops into your head, especially in the group. Like Das was saying, we want the group to be an open forum for you guys. That's a really, you may be having something in your head that you might think is dumb. It's probably 5, 10 other people who might be thinking the exact same thing. So don't feel stupid. Ask us either privately or in the group. And then we might come to the group and say, someone asked me this. It was a really good question, just for the people who may be wondering this, this, and this. But like me and Das saying, we can't help you if we are left in the dark. So the best thing you can do is just always ask. If you have any doubts, same goes for changing anything up. If you want to change anything, if you've got queries about your diet, you might want to mix that up. Same with your training, ask us. And that just opens the forum for the ability to help you guys better. But we've got to know. If we don't know, we can't help you.
Perfect. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Everyone committed?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great. All right. So these 3 things kind of really somewhat intertwined, and they're kind of a mixture of both food and training, both these kind of 3 things. So multifaceted, intuitive, and unconditional permission. So I want you guys to really kind of like listen to what I'm going to talk about with these. But I think today's meant to be a bit more, I think most people kind of struggle. You guys are all pretty good. You all come to the gym. I think food sometimes tends to be people's issue more so than necessarily training. Maybe the intensity of training could be a bit harder sometimes when we can play less in training can be sometimes. That can have, but food is probably like the main thing that seems to be a lot of people's issue. So we really want you guys to like listen to these things today and really kind of take it on and understand that like things that you might have heard in the past and not necessarily, they're not wrong, they're not right, they just are. And the more you can understand that, the better you're going to get. So when we talk about like multifaceted, multiphasic like phases and changes, is things like that. When we're doing something, you don't have to follow a set plan. You don't have to have the same calories every single week. We don't have to have the same deficit every single week. We don't have to have the same time frame. So even though, yes, this is an 8-week challenge, as you guys know, that we've talked about this, this is meant to be lifestyle. So I don't want this to, everything you're aiming for is just to the end of the 8 weeks. Yes, I want a small goal to that end date, but it keeps changing and ever changing and constantly is evolving. So should be your diet, and so should be your training. So that makes sense. So if you are set on like, hey, I'm only eating 900 calories and something happens in your life and you want to go out for dinner and then you're like, oh my God, this is my plan, and you can't go over that plan and you do, then you feel guilty for going for going out of the way, and then you end up binge eating or doing something because I'll just throw it out the window because I've been bad, versus allowing it can change. You can have 1 week where you're really low calories, another week where you're maintenance, another week where you're high. It can constantly change all the time. We don't have to be on this one set plan. Does that make sense? Yeah, it could always change, and including these 8 weeks. I don't mean just these 8 weeks. You can do, you could be, might have 4 weeks where you're like, okay, the first 4 weeks, I'm going to really try and go more of a lower calorie, set myself, see how I feel with that. Then I might do a week of maintenance. Then I might not count calories at all. It doesn't matter. It can be ever changing all the time, because when we find that we're too restrictive, that's when we tend to do the wrong thing. If we restrict ourselves and then we have the mentality about being restrictive, that's what always sets us to go down the bad path, when we realize that it can always change and you're making those decisions. You're making the decisions to change it. So if you're deciding and you're really, and what I wrote here is like, if it doesn't excite you, don't do it. So if you're not excited about your meal plan or what you want to do, then that's not going to work for you. It needs to excite you. So we've talked about, you would have seen in your, has everyone kind of read their manual? Yeah. There's one of the things that talks about aggressive dieting. And so that's something I do want to talk about, but a bit later. But with something like that, you can sit there and be like, well, I'm going to eat 1,200 calories for 4 or 5 days or a week. And there's a lot of research now around that works. But if you can't do that and that doesn't excite you and you're like, it's a chore, then you don't do that. Yeah. But if you're excited about doing it and you're wanting to do it, but then remember, you're making that decision yourself. You can be like, okay, well, today I don't feel like I could do it. Cool. I'm choosing to eat more calories. I'm choosing to be at a maintenance today because it's not going to work for me. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that if you diet for a couple of weeks and you're hating it, then how are you supposed to last 8, let alone beyond that 8 weeks, right? We don't want anyone to be sitting there eating their food and hating every second of it, because it's not, it will just ruin everyone's chance of being able to enjoy this, and definitely ruin everyone's chance of the ability to continue this beyond the 8 weeks. So what we're trying to do is give you guys a little bit of freedom as far as your diet goes. So when the time comes that we finish this 8 weeks, you're eating meals that you enjoy, you know how to track your protein, and we leave it a bit more in your hands. Like, we want you to be able to do this on your own without us checking in on you. Like, we'll be here for the 8 weeks, but beyond that, we want you guys to be able to give you the tools, give you the ability to eat foods you enjoy, find a diet that sort of works for you personally, and you can stick with it and enjoy what you're actually eating.
Yeah,
enjoy
I
what you're
suppose,
doing.
like, not even really calling it a
diet
diet.
anymore.
Like, it's not really, it's just a way of eating. It's just normal foods that you can eat. And that kind of, I suppose, brings us to, like I said, they're all going to kind of intertwine, but like with being intuitive, this goes both for training and both for food. So does this one. Like, what about your training style can change dramatically if you're not enjoying something? Change it up. If you just want to do cardio, you just want to do strength, like that. The same thing goes for food and for training. It needs to work for you. But with intuitive, like, understand, like, are you hungry? Are you full? Do you even know what hunger feels like? You know, are you, when you eat certain foods, does it make you feel good? Do you feel crap when you eat it? Like, if you're thinking about something, you might find, okay, you want to eat, I don't know, high fat foods, and you eat them and you feel sluggish and tired, then maybe your body doesn't respond that well to high fat foods. Maybe you try more carbohydrates and you respond better to that. That gives you more energy, you feel better. Then great, you go down that path. Like, as long as, which we're going to talk a lot more about Saturday, but as long as you're hitting your protein needs, everything else can kind of work what best suits you. So it's listening to your body and starting to figure that, and it might take a bit of time. I don't expect you to figure that out in week 1. You might have to, I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm still trying, like, up until 6 months ago, I had no idea what it felt like to be hungry. I was always ate. So I don't know. And it took a good, like, couple of weeks, like, what does hunger feel like, to actually know what it feels like. But I do say that you do have to probably eat a real variety of food and making sure you are getting all your right foods to actually feel a proper level of hunger. Because if you're just eating ice cream every day, then blood sugar level, like, you don't feel a real sense of hunger, if that makes sense. But it's starting to figure out what that feels like. For you, it might be, you might get moody. You might, like, snap at somebody. You might find that you are really, really tired. It doesn't have to just happen with, like, the grumbles in the stomach. You don't know. You've got to figure out for yourself, wow, if that's, I'm hungry, this is how I'm reacting. There might be other signs that show if you're hungry. If you're full, we always kind of make a big plate of food and you might, like, overeat. And for some people, if you're trying to hit a certain amount of calories or food, then that's okay. But for people that are generally binge eaters or overeat, understanding even when you're eating normal good food, that are you really full? Then be like, cool, I can eat this later. I'm actually really full. And, like, feel like that feels. That makes sense. So really be intuitive with your body. Same with your training. If you're sore, guys, like, if you're, like, sore from a day, like Jolie said before, if you're overtraining, you're gonna get the same thing with overtraining. You get, it really, really will inhibit your results massively if you overtrain and don't give your muscles time to recover. So if you're really sore, then have a day off. Listen to yourself. If you're finding that, pushing through injuries because you're wanting to do what's on the board, and then you end up more injured and you can't train, that's going to affect you more. So just work around you and listening to your body. So that's kind of an inspiring intuitive.
No, totally. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Not to say the cliche comment, but
Yeah.
like it's like if you be honest, just send it and just write yourselves off week 1, week 2. You end up doing something a little bit too excessive. Your whole challenge is wrecked. Your whole 8 weeks is wrecked just for the sake of pushing a little bit too hard. So like the diet, we all know the diet is going to yield the greatest results. You cannot come in here that you could push harder than every single person in here. You're not out training a bad diet. We know how much nutrition plays a part, which is why we're emphasizing drilling it into you guys so heavily, because this is the most important part. It's all the housekeeping stuff. It's getting adequate sleep. It's getting enough water in. It's meeting your protein targets. Those are the things that are going to make the big difference, not how hard you push in here. This is secondary to all the things that you're doing at home. And big pushes is super important, but this stuff is more.
You'll feel 100%. Like once you actually start thinking about it, like, am I sleeping enough? And like same thing, like when you're eating, it's like, oh, actually I'm full. You put that away. It's like, am I recovering enough? How hard am I actually pushing my train? And just actually thinking about those little things rather than going through the motions, you will see so much better results instantly. You'll just be in tune with your body so much more. It's like if you're tired, I guarantee if you're sitting there on your phone at night and you can just scroll for like 2 hours, 3 hours, and you're like, fuck, it's like 11 o'clock. And you're like, I'm exhausted. It's like, if you actually think, oh no, actually I'm tired. It's like, put it down, you go to bed, you get a really good night's sleep. Because as soon as one link in the chain breaks, everything will go. When you're tired, then you're not sleeping good enough. Then your training's not going to be as good. When you're training shit, you're like, oh, most of the time, oh, you want to binge shit food, you eat that. And it's just a vicious cycle that goes and goes and goes. So the more that we're in tune with exactly what we're doing, and we're not expecting you guys to get it straight away. Like we said, we're all still figuring out. I get times where I'm just like, I'm like, fuck, it's so late. I've got to go to work in the morning. So just trying to be more in tune with that, the foods I'm eating, and then exactly the intensities I am doing when I'm training, then you're going to be on a way better track to get the best results possible.
Which is just something you brought there. Hands up, like who has Instagram or Facebook or something on social media? Yeah. Who owns a TV? Yeah, cool. How many of you every single night during the week would watch TV or scroll on Instagram? Yeah. You don't watch TV? Yeah.
And laptop.
Yeah. And that's how many of you actually, that's really good. How many of you are scrolling through Instagram while watching TV and not really paying any attention to what's on TV? You kind of just, but not really paying any attention to either of them. Yeah, you kind of like scrolling / watching, just existing. Yet, how many of you have been eating bad and not preparing their food for the next day and coming to work with no food? Yeah. So do you think maybe at night time where you're sitting there mindlessly doing that, you have time to probably prep some food and get organized? Yeah, because if you're thinking 2 hours a night watching TV, that's 14 hours a week. So when someone says to me, I don't have time, I'm sorry, like I don't understand. Like if you can have time to watch TV, you have time to like make a bit of food. I don't watch TV until Saturday, and I don't have time anyway. So I don't know how you guys have time to sit there and watch TV during the weeknight. And there's so many things you could do. You could like sit there and do mobility. Even if you're gonna watch TV, sit on the floor and do mobility, stretch yourself out, like do something kind of productive. TV is like, I just don't get it. I just feel like it's such a mindless thing. And there's so many things that you could be doing to like do some other things to sleep. What's mindless, yes.
So now 100%.
But it generally the light from your TVs and the light from your phone will inhibit you from going to sleep.
Wrecks your sleep.
So it does wreck your sleep. So even if you can try to, maybe get, I don't know if anyone's got on their phone, I don't have set up, I'm technically challenged, but I'm set up on my phone. So at 9:30, everything turns off. Yeah. Apart from messages.
And night mode.
Yeah, night mode.
Yeah. And you can turn the hue on and it's just
and stuff like that. So things like that you can do, which we'll talk about at the end with you taking action, but some stuff like that where you can do where things just turn off. Don't think there's anything for a TV, but maybe like you could like do something where you like, I don't know, alarm goes off on your phone, you like pull the plug out of the TV or something.
I put my TV on sleep.
Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Is it a thing? I don't know.
Auto turns off.
So yeah,
so I want sleep, but you can't do it and turn the brightness of the TV down as well, because that'd be nice. So I try and sit down, I can still see the light sometimes. No one has that problem.
Who has TV in their room?
Oh yeah.
I live in the lounge room, so I've got no choice.
Yeah.
I agree, but I never turn.
So just things like this, does that make sense? Because you could probably say 14 hours a week and at the end of the day, yes, I know there's like, I know the show's Maths, the other thing is that still on now, I don't know if that's a thing, but things like that, like realistically, if you missed it, it's okay. There's nothing really in that. Like I know you get some FOMO, but there isn't really any FOMO. Like your life will keep going if you do miss it. So maybe save it for a lot of times. So it's just a random thing. But try and like let's limit making that face.
And that's sorry, it's time to prep your food as well. So I find the two biggest killers for me as far as my diet goes is emotional eating. So have a shit one, just go, fuck it, I'm eating this or this, big one, a really big one for me. And then just a lack of preparation, like how many times you've been at work all day and you've gone, I don't have anything, so stuff it, Uber Eats it is, so a lack of preparation, it will just kick you in the arse if you're not prepared. So set aside a little bit of time to yourselves to get your meals and everything sorted, because it'll be when you have nothing sorted that you'll err to the side of those easy, convenient, but not so great for you,
And also just quick, obviously we've got a lot more on Saturday, but just for something like that, I think that people always have this thing where like, oh my God, I've got to eat. But like if you have one of those days where you also don't have any food, you can also choose to just like not eat. Yeah, like it's like you're not going to, people last months
Days.
without food, actually, like months
Weeks.
without food. There's a guy lasted a whole year. He said, what did we have? 365 days. I think he just had a pill, a multivitamin
Yeah.
pill for 365
3
days.
days.
Yeah.
365 days.
I know, so me could did 3 days.
Oh, 3 days, yeah, but like you can
Just to do it.
like you could
So-
fast, but you could not eat. But it's not going to affect your muscle. Okay, it's not going to affect nothing. If anything, nothing. You actually, after you ride the waves of the first hunger, you probably actually become less hungry. Okay, so like you can do it. So there's sometimes that's an option as well, that if you don't have to rather than pick something bad, rather than stressing over what to pick, sometimes I feel like that becomes more the stress of like not actually being hungry, but you're like, oh, I'm meant to eat. Just don't eat and go home and then eat dinner.
We're not saying starve
Like,
yourself. So
No, but I'm saying that could be an option that could potentially be
you
there.
don't
That
have to eat just because you're hungry. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what I find it. I usually don't eat till like we said, we'll go into all the different options later. But I find I'm way busy in the morning, so I don't eat till I get home at lunchtime.
I'm the same. I don't eat until.
That way I don't have to worry about if I'm getting up at like 4:20, and then by the time I get up, try and cook. I can cook something if I wanted to. I just get here, I just have a coffee, and then
And that's
I
the
drink
whole,
water.
I guess, either fasting or aggressive dieting, where they're just getting a lot more research where people are less hungry by doing that. They're actually feeling like more, when they eat them, because that's what I said. What I really thought about, I've been doing a little bit where I've had like a few, maybe 4 days at a time that I can last, because where I don't eat all day, and then I just have dinner. So maybe 800 calories a day. Or I might do like 4 each day. We don't last maybe a month. And I find that, yeah, like you kind of 11 o'clock wave, and then maybe like a 2 p.m. wave. And then it's like completely fine and you don't really think about it. But then when you get to dinner time anyway, I'm just as full as if I ate breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
and
I'm
snacks.
just as full
You're the
at
same.
dinner time. So yes, it is during the day, but once I then eat the dinner, and if anything, I'm probably like you're actually eating less. So I'm full of fast. I'm listening to myself, like, oh, I'm actually really full now, and I'll just stop eating once I'm full. But you could eat so much food in that time. So if you have one of those days where you didn't have any food and you forgot to bring it, then for dinner, you could eat like, you're not kind of portioning out. You can go, cool, I'm going to have roast potatoes, I'm going to have steak, I'm going to make whatever you want to, and it would still probably only be 1,000 calories. And you haven't eaten all day. So I'm not saying to necessarily do that, but there's options there as well. We'll talk a lot more about them on Saturday. Does that make sense? You don't have to always eat. The other one is just unconditional permission. And the reason why, for those who sometimes binge eats. Yep, there we go. Yep. So this is where a lot of binge eating comes around mindset, and more about that mindset of that restriction versus the actual restriction. So the reason where like unconditional permission comes from is like saying that at any point you can eat chocolate, you can have ice cream, you can have burgers, you can have chips. At any point you're choosing to have it or not to have it. You are the person that makes that any So at any point of this is 8 weeks and on, if you feel like something and you really want it, you are allowed to have it. You make the decision whether you want to have it or whether you don't. So if that's there, you're taking away that restriction. You're not allowed to have it. You can have whenever you want to, but you choose to have it if you want it. The one thing I will say about that is things like, just say you're really feeling like chocolate, but you haven't eaten all day yet. The one thing I want to say to not just my clients, but to all of you that are doing the challenge is, just say you get to a point, you're like, okay, I really want chocolate. Absolutely, you can have it, but have you eaten yet? No. Have you had water yet? No. So you'd make sure you have big water, you make sure you have a variety of food. So you might have some kind of protein, a fat, a carbohydrates, and veggies. Have your meal. In no way saying, I can't not have the chocolate, I can have the chocolate, but I'm going to eat the meal, I'm going to have some water. If I still want it after I've eaten that food, go and have a chocolate bar. Go and have it. Enjoy it, taste it, don't eat a whole block. But then if you don't feel like it, just wait, because you can still have it later. So it's not like, oh, I'm allowed to have it, I'll have it. If you don't feel like it because you're now full and satisfied, wait until you then want it again, and then you can have it. Yeah, but there's no restriction. You don't have to be restricted. You can have anything you want to. But the reality is, generally heavily processed foods are not great for us. Yeah, foods that have a really like high calorie density, okay, are normally not that great for us. Okay, so as much as, or really, really, I suppose, like nutrient depleted foods are not great for us. So obviously having something like Nutella, bloody delicious, but doesn't really add any nutrient value. So keeping them generally at the shorter end of the stick is better for us, but it doesn't mean you can't have it. It just means you shouldn't be having Nutella for every single meal of every single day, because that's not good for us. But if you just had broccoli for every single meal, every single day, that also isn't good for us. So variety is the most important thing, is making sure we're having a mixture of food all the time. And that can include chocolate as well. But it just means that you're getting all your other foods first before you're just eating chocolate. Because I could easily eat a block or 2 blocks. Das can't. Me and Coop. Easy. I can eat a block in 10 minutes and not feel sick and probably eat another one. At least half, yeah, easily. But if I ate a meal first, I probably couldn't, because I would be fine. Like, I've had dinner before I came here and I'm full. I feel full. I don't feel like chocolate because I'm full. But if I hadn't eaten, I probably would feel like chocolate. Does that make sense? Everyone kind of feel the same? Do you like get those, like, who gets like, that's what I'm saying, the feeling, but when you have like overwhelming, like you're like, I just want chocolate, and you'd like get to Safeway and you'd almost eat the chocolate before you even like got to the car. Is that anyone?
Is anyone else like that? Because you always keep selling. Okay.
Yes, who else like that? Where you like, I've like eaten, like I've like half unwrapped it before I like got in the car. I'm like, it's like a drug. It's like, oh.
Tells me all the time. I just don't. I don't
It's like, what are
believe
you
it.
talking about? No, yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes, yes. Yeah.
What is wrong with chocolate?
It's delicious. I'm sorry, but it tastes good.
No.
And it's like, but it's also the cravings and like the
Yeah.
actual sugar content. Does that make sense? Yeah. So we can have unconditional permission whenever you want. You're making a decision. Okay. So you can eat the food.
And something I like sometimes will tend to do, and I'm sure you guys will do it as well, is when I do decide to eat something, I beat myself up about it after. Like, oh, damn, I shouldn't eat that. Like, it's all gone now. Like, you don't even have anything to show for it except like, you know, a big bloated stomach or whatever, you know, like, don't do that. Allow, like, give yourself the permission to eat the foods that you want to eat, and then don't just, it's done. Move forward, you know, don't be like, I should have done
If
it.
you give yourself permission to eat it, then be like, I made that choice.
Yeah.
I'm happy to have it. You know what I mean? So then
And
you're
don't
not beating
regret
yourself.
it
Yeah, don't
after,
regret it.
you know,
100%.
Move on, get straight back into it. Don't, something else I'll do is I'll go, well, I'm off the wagon now, and then it carries into the next day and the next day and the next day, and it's just like, and now you're done. You know, it's like, no. If you just left it at what it was and then you moved on, you may not even notice it, because most of us, the majority of us, are going to be in a calorie deficit, which means we're going to be burning more calories than we're consuming. So we'll be, you know, a calorie deficit means that you have that little bit of leeway to eat more and not necessarily put on weight. Maybe you'll plateau for a bit, but I tell you, will put on weight if you keep eating shit the next day, into the next day and the next day. Do not fall off the wagon because you have an off day of eating or an off day of drinking. Leave it at that, move forward and jump straight back on the diet. You know what I mean? It's very, very, very common to write yourselves off after one bad day and just, you know what I mean? End up just ruining all the progress that you guys are going to be making.
Definitely. And that comes also back to just one thing, is variety, which obviously will go through a full plate on what it should look like on Saturday. But I want you guys to really think about who's like thought they should like cut out carbohydrates or go on keto or do paleo or do some random weird diet. Yeah, anyone? No one's giving me this thing? Yeah, okay, thank you. Yep,
Do you mean in general for the challenge?
no, in general, not for the
yeah.
challenge, like in general, that like we need to, and that's the biggest thing, is we are generally going to feel the most satisfied, have the most amount of energy, get the best sleep, train the hardest, be able to stick to something and be adherent if we're eating a variety of food. That's what it comes down to. And everything, if you guys, which I will get you guys said you watch the videos, but every single diet out there, whether it's a shake diet, whether it's keto, they all follow the same principles, and that is calories in versus calories out. If you're going to cut out an entire food group like carbohydrates, of course you're going to lose that because you're at a deficit. Keto isn't something special, and it's very, very, very hard to get into ketosis, and no one really sticks to it anyway. So all they're doing is cutting out carbohydrates, and therefore they're in a calorie deficit. Yep. So that's why you're able to lose fat, or that person is. But what happens is, Jess Paul isn't here, but hopefully she's watching. She's now, we just did her scan again. She's the heaviest. Last year she had a whole year of like maybe 8 months of keto, lost heaps. Now she's heavier than she's ever been, because once she eats carbs again, you probably doesn't know what to do. Like you just
rebound.
And that's what all these things are about. It's like not rebounding. It's not becoming a thing where we're back here again in 6 months or a year's time, where it's learning to have these things as part of your life and making sure that we're just having a variety of food. And then it's always easy. You can always have carbs, you can always have fats, you can always have protein, you can always got these mixed foods, you can always have chocolate. Like everything's there for you to have in a variety of weight, and it's going to keep you the most satisfied and nice and full and feeling good. And also one thing I put up here was deficiencies. I think people, when you remove an entire food group as well, you don't understand, it's not just about like how we aesthetically look, but also how we feel. And a lot of things, if we're lowering them, like I think a common one is like an iron deficiency. Everyone's had or heard of someone with an iron deficiency where you generally feel like tired, people get really white, those sort of things where there's every single micronutrient affects us. So for example, Sue's, I think this story's gonna be in a minute. Her blood pressure at the moment. So for that, it's like rather than the doctor giving her blood pressure tablets, anyone looked at a really common side effects of a deficiency of magnesium is high blood pressure. So if you have, so there's other things that can affect like eyesight, vitamin A. If you're really low on vitamin A, people end up blind. So there's like heaps of things that like vitamin B12, like you end up eating away brain tissue because your body needs it. So if you start to remove certain things from your body starts to respond in ways that it was trying to stay alive because it's really smart. It's not like I used the analogy the other day, it's a bad analogy, but if you don't put fuel in your car, eventually it stops. I don't know if anyone's done that. I've done it several times when I've just driven and I was like, oh, well, it's on empty and fully stopped. Really bad for your car. Don't do that. But the car isn't smart enough to figure out its way out of it. The body will. The body is designed to stay alive. It will figure out a way. So if you don't have enough protein,
It'll start eating away all your muscles.
Really away your muscles because it'll start to break down protein sources to get that protein. Okay, the body will get the things it needs. It's just clever. It's really amazing and it will figure out its way. So for you to have a variety of food, you'll never have that problem. And remember, if you have a variety of food and you're getting all the right things that it needs, so you're getting all the right fats, protein, carbohydrates in your body, it means that the protein as well in your body can actually do the things it's meant to do: nails, hair, skin, stomach, all these things, where protein will help do other things as well. So if you don't even get enough fats and carbohydrates, the protein in the body will have to start to do other things and can't do its normal everyday functions. Yeah, so like you just need a mixture of food and you will feel the absolute best. And that's your biggest thing. Do not try and cut out entire food groups. Just try and eat a well-balanced diet and try and just like look at your portion size and understand calories and figure like, well, obviously goes on Saturday, but a mixture of food, and don't undereat and eat just one hot cross bun per day. There you go. That's also the opposite. So not many are like her, where you just want to eat one mouthful of food. Don't do that either.
And it's going to be hard, like, and me trying to find different things. The last point, I enjoy my food. I'm very plain. I'll have roughly the same stuff every day, but I get a good mixture of fats, proteins, carbs, and I enjoy every single meal I have. And it never feels like I'm on a diet at all. Honestly, every single meal I go home and I look forward to it. Every single time, as soon as I finish here, I go home. I'm lucky enough I don't have to bring my food to work. I live around the corner, so I get to cook all my meals at home. But every single meal I have, I love. And then once I finish that, and then try and work hard throughout the week. Then on the weekends, if I do want to go out with the boys, have a couple of beers or like go out for dinner, it's cool because I budgeted. I'll put it all in. I try and put in the work throughout the week. I make sure I've got everything throughout the week. So then when I do go out, I don't feel bad at all. If I go out, I'll say I love having KFC most Sundays. No, not every Sunday. But that's like my favorite thing. Like I love it. We go there with all the boys, and I'm fine. I don't feel bad about it at all. Just because I know everything I'm doing throughout the week, and it is structured. Like I said, it does take a bit of time to organize and sort of figure out. But once you figure it out, it is so easy, so easy.
And it doesn't have to be as you don't have to. Meal prep can be different for every single person. It could be really basic. It could just be having like certain foods. You might just cook up a whole lot of rice and you might be able to come home every day and cook a steak, or you might be able to like make a wrap, or it can vary however you want it to vary. And as that's the thing about enjoying food, that can be different for every single person. So it doesn't mean you have to be strict during the week and then enjoy it on the weekend. He enjoys the meals that he makes, but his meals that he makes, you guys might find terrible. Like he was just eating a bowl of like mince today. It's not delicious. But a lot of people are like, I don't want to eat a bowl of like taco mince. But you might want to make a burrito. So you might want to get a wrap. And like, so people get really confused where they think like rice is good, pasta is bad. We're going to go through this on Saturday a lot, but they have the same calories, same carb content, same everything, no difference. So if you like pasta, eat pasta, just weigh it out. Like you have pasta and rice, same amount. Make any difference. If you like potatoes are not bad. You can roast a whole lot of potatoes, you put it in oil and roast them. I mean, so if you like wraps, you can swap out like a wrap instead of like people have chicken, rice, and veggies and think it's healthy. But if you made like a chicken and cheese wrap, you think it's bad. It's just a bit of cheese, but the wrap's the same quantity, like same thing. You probably get wraps that have much better nutritional value than rice.
And probably less calories.
Less calories. And you know what I mean? So like you don't, so if you like burritos, you like wraps, you like pasta, all of these things you can eat every day. Every day. It doesn't have to be chicken, rice, and broccoli. You can make any food exciting as you want to. We all really love steak. So like, we're happy. I just really like a piece of steak. I'm not good cooking it now, but I really like steak. So like to me, I would enjoy a piece of steak. But if you don't really like it, then don't have that. Yes, does that make sense? Have what you like. And if you're confused about it, let us help you. But you can swap out any carb for a carb. Pretty much most protein for a protein will go like that. Slightly varies in calories, but you can swap things out so easily to fit into your food that you really enjoy. Yeah. They might have-
He's going.
But all these things pretty much equal you to be adherent and be able to stick with something. Okay, because we're doing things that work for us, that we enjoy, that fit into our lifestyle, that we want to do every day. And therefore you're gonna be adherent. Zook, you can just join me.
Oh, yeah.
This is Zook, guys.
Hey guys, nice to meet you. Max and I are offering 50% off an initial consult with us for the challenges. So even if you've seen us before, it's just 50% off that treatment.
Yeah, cool. Just obviously we want you guys feeling like good for the challenge. So if you guys want to take up this, obviously you guys, what do? You do like a booking, like a link for that particular, or just message you then Max makes that thing. We'll figure that out. But yes, you're gonna go to
Figure it out.
right, so Max and
Well,
Zook.
we'll have the list. So
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, awesome.
I think that's super important as well. Like, don't take little niggles for granted until they turn into more than little niggles. Listen to your body, rest if you need to rest. And if something's a little bit not right and it's not going away, see the boys, like they will look after you. They'll be able to identify what it is if you can train or if you can't. But if you just go in there blind with something not 100% right, you run the risk of obviously making it worse. And we want you guys to, we want to see you at the end of the 8 weeks, not have people drop off because they're just sending it and not listening to their body.
Does anyone have any questions about this? Anything that's been confused, like not even about this, but in general, that you kind of get confused, that we could kind of like something about food that normally like you're really confused about, or like I know certain food gets really demonized, like carbs and like potatoes are bad and we can't eat bread and fruit's really bad, fruit's going to cause diabetes. No, it's fucking not. It makes no sense whatsoever. So like, are there things like that that you're confused about? No, you're all like pros.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Our problem is bigger than the questions we can ask Mia.
No, nothing.
No.
Cool. Okay, so we're all going to be good.
Yeah.
Meal plans on my desk tonight, guys. For some food. No. Well, then I guess here we'll just go into this and then we're done. Pretty much, it's just 3 options. And yes, it is option 1, 2, and 3. That does not mean like that's not like level 1, level 2, level 3 in any way. It's just kind of the way that we kind of wrote it out. When we talk about option 1, this is something we've kind of done, I suppose, a lot more in previous challenges. We've always tried to tell you guys to be quite flexible, but I suppose we've kind of said, hey, give us a bit more of a plan on what you're planning to do. We really want to, the biggest thing if you're on a plan, like I said before, you fall off a plan. It's a lot easier to fall off something when you're on something versus not being on anything. So this is about, you know, hitting your protein, being quite structured with like, I guess your macronutrients, you know, fat, protein, carbohydrates, being really, I guess, a bit more rigid, you know, having the same breakfast every day, having the same lunch every day, wanting to write on a plan. You know, I'd really say if you're someone that you feel like you really need to follow the exact same thing every day and you feel that works for you, then go for that option. If you're someone that's done that before and you've already fallen off that option, then that's not your option because it hasn't worked for you in the past. It's not going to work for you this time. Don't think, oh, today's this time's different. It's not different. The same thing will happen. Okay. So if that doesn't work for you, don't do that. Okay. The second one is more about as long as we hit our protein needs. So teaching you guys, which we'll talk about on Saturday, how to hit your protein needs, what that means, how do we work out our protein, what does it look like in a plate? We're literally going to bring in a whole lot of food, actual food, and show you guys everything. So how that works, so understanding that, and having kind of a set, you've already given your calories, and having kind of a set number of calories, but understanding how to work within the confines of those. As long as we hit our protein, you can really fit food in any way that you like, and being a lot more flexible and just making food that makes you feel good, that you enjoy. And then option number 3 is kind of not really having really any set calories at all, or really like doing anything, and making sure pretty much we're getting a fat, protein, and carb in every meal. So just variety into your meals, making sure you're still kind of understanding portion size so you're getting in enough protein, but really just trying to eat a well-balanced diet, sticking to habits and kind of following through without necessarily having any focus on like counting. So we want you to count anything or weigh anything, but we want you at the start, for the first week or 2, you may have to, if you kind of go over this, roughly know like how much chicken you're eating, how much food you're eating, eggs you're having, what you're doing, so you can get an idea of what that kind of looks like. Once you learn it, you kind of just know, like, do you weigh your food out?
No, I'll rarely, maybe once a month, I'll go through a day. I roughly eat the same sort of stuff anyway. If I change up, I might track for a month just to see where I'm at. Just because I'm trying to get a bit stronger, so I'm actually trying to put on weight, which I'm like, so with that, if I'm constantly doing extra cardio and stuff and not eating enough, then I'm not going to gain any more strength. So I track every now and then, but that's pretty much it. Just to if I change up some foods, but
and you start to learn kind of, I guess, what it is. That's what we want from you guys. I really want you to learn it and get it, so you can kind of look at food and kind of like a quite roughly here, and in a really simple way, even like during the challenge, after the challenge, whether you're like here or here, pretty much in a really simple way, even without the scan, if you're generally on a down, if your goal is not to put on muscle or size, your goal is more to like maintain muscle and lose body fat. If you generally are losing weight on the scales, like it's on a downward trend, then you're at a deficit. It's a pretty bad, like that's really, if it's gaining weight, like on an upward trend, obviously weight fluctuates, right? But if it's on an upward trend, then you're at a surplus. Like that's a simple, like, so if you're kind of like keep weighing yourself, and you're like, oh, I'm putting on a kilo each week, but like you're at a surplus. If you're putting on a kilo a week, every single week on an upward trend, we're not at a deficit. So yes, it doesn't show us as much, and I don't want people to get obsessed with weight in any way, but just understand that like we can figure out that we're at a deficit if and looking yourself in the mirror, seeing how you're looking. Are you bloated? Are you not bloated? How is the food working for you? And generally you'll kind of know that you're at a deficit. You start to figure that out pretty quickly. So that's kind of the options we've got there. And we'll go through them on Saturday a lot more detail. Does anyone kind of have an idea of where they maybe like want to sit or what they want to do?
Anyone want to say?
Yeah.
Three, option 3, option 2, option 1.
Can you do a mix though?
Absolutely.
Like, see, I'm very much like,
Absolutely. And that's what this is all about. Trying everything. Like
this.
no, but what I'm saying is like option 1 for breakfast is basically, and my lunch is always the same. And then dinner can be a.
But then that's probably still more this, where you're like, as in like your food might fit, like you might eat the same foods, but your focus is more like hitting your protein, and the foods can be varied, where this is more like 30% fat, 30% carbs, 30% like a bit more like working out full macros, being a bit like stringent with that. We'll talk about this. I don't know if you should do that, but anyway, we'll talk about that.
But yeah, even with that option 2, it's super, like if most of us are trying to lose body fat, calories, as long as we're sitting in a deficit, we're hitting our protein. You can fill the rest up with whatever you want, fats, carbs. You can go all carbs.
So I don't want to push it, but
as long as we're hitting the protein, we're under our calories. Go.
Because they're still kind of much of the muchness. The difference is just they're kind of like, this is still calories and protein, but it's just without like being, you could have fats or carbs. Okay, so whatever suits you, you might play around with it. So one week you might have higher fats, see how you feel that week. The next week you might have higher carbs, see how you feel. You kind of need to try it a little bit yourself to find what works for you. You can't just be like, okay, cool, I'm just going to eat these carbs, and then you don't feel great. Like make it, change it a little bit. So you can still be following really strictly, but the weeks have to change for you to find what works best for you, because you don't know unless you try it. You've got to find out what, and you're not going to find that in a week at all. So yeah, just.
So the calories that you sent us.
Yeah.
That's food. So is that taken into our exercise as well? Or is that, what's that based on?
That's based on what we would that's putting pretty much most people at, depending on what their goals were, at generally somewhat of a deficit, or potentially like at maintenance for those putting on like muscle a little bit. So that's like us already taking into account you training how we want you to be, and that would put you already at a deficit. Does that make sense?
That is the total amount of calories
that
we
you
want
consume.
to consume.
So if we gave you 2,000 calories, we want you to sit at 2,000 calories. We don't want you to
Is
then
that up
take away
to
some.
or
No,
No,
at,
at?
yes, or even above more so than below, because we've got room to move a little bit with those things, a little bit more.
It's
So
going to be a bit of trial and error as well. Everybody's body is physically different, burns a different amount of calories. Please don't believe what your Apple Watches and everything say you're burning, because they lie.
oh my God, they're so high.
They are outrageously high. So when people are trying to, checking how many calories they burn off and then eating those calories back, you're making a big mistake, right? Listen to your body, track your body, and obviously it's going to be not just for you guys, but for us, a bit of trial and error as far as your calories go as well. We might put you on calories and accidentally, they might be a bit too high. Your movement might not be as much as what we thought it was. You might track up, but on an upwards trajectory, we might need to dial your calories back if you've
And
So
also-
last year when we started, before everything went south, I actually struggled to get to the calorie.
Yeah.
Last time.
And that's going to be a big struggle for some.
But once you
not
got there-
under eating,
Because I was
so
training more used to it,
that's
but
going
at the
to
start I
be,
was like, I can't eat all this.
yeah.
But then did you start to get hungry later?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
as soon as you
So
start
that's
training
the
more,
biggest thing. The more you train, the more you eat, and then the hungrier you get. It's a really great. That's like a great sign. It's like, oh my God, I'm getting hungry. Your body's actually using up that fuel. So once you initially, some of you will feel really full, or if you get the opposite, some of you are like, I'm starving. Then you probably either, because none of your calories are that low. So I feel like if you're starving, you're not understanding, and you're like you're weighing something the wrong way, or you're like cooking it and then like weighing it out, or like you're doing it a weird way where you're like, I'm so hungry. because generally, I mean, it may happen that you may be, and then we'll put you up. Because if your body's hungry, your body doesn't know that you're trying to like beat a deficit. So if you're too hungry, then your body actually needs more fuel, like more food. So we can still, depending on where you're at, and basically, if it's one day you're hungry, that's a little bit different. But if it's an onward thing, you're like, I'm starving, then you need to talk to us because that's not where we want you to be. Generally, it'd be the opposite, where you're probably feeling
And
like.
it's very, very easy to hit your calories and stay full by hitting adequate amount of protein. It's got the highest calories. It's going to keep you full the longest. Your body's going to use it the best.
The highest calories.
No, it's not the highest calories, but for good.
Yeah, like it's pretty easy to hit. If you find like someone like Marlene who struggles to eat lots of food, she needs to eat more calorie dense foods. So it may be, you know, getting more high fats in your diet because it's easier. So you might avocado, you might salmon, like fish, like other foods that are
You're a
high.
lost cause then.
We can't just. The other day she's like, I've had one hot cross bun and what's
Yeah, I don't want to tell you what I ate today.
I was like, you need to eat
So
more
things
food.
like almonds, you know, are very calorie dense, a really easy snack. Like I'm a big fan of almonds. You can take them to work with you. Like they've got protein, they've got like good healthy fats in them.
Can't even eat
Yeah, I know. Some say
chocolate.
it's not such a fan, but compared to say chicken breast, like you will find that say like not all protein is created equal. So a steak is and almonds and things are incredibly calorie dense, whereas chicken breast may be super low on the calories. So again, it's going to come down to trial and error. It's not just what foods work for you and your taste buds, but what foods work in with your calories and meeting those calorie needs that we've given you.
Is that
Yeah. Do you have any questions for you guys? You good?
Sorry. Thank you.
If you guys think of anything, you know, you might walk out the door and go, yeah, just messages, post it in the Facebook group or ask us and we may, you know, we'll post it anonymously in the Facebook group because I guarantee you questions that you guys have, other people will be thinking the same thing. So shoot us a message privately, anyone, your coach, and we will address it if we, you know.
Candice, do you have a question?
No, I think it was sort of answered because I was going to ask the same thing as everyone. Like, I'm nowhere near the calories that you've given me. So, how far under would be classified as okay? What
Like
would you
50.
Okay.
Maybe 100.
Yeah, 100.
Does everyone use MyFitnessPal?
I tried to use it today.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, do you want us to track them and like show you, or is it more we're doing that on our
Just
own?
for you to help you.
Well, no, I mean, we kind of obviously want, I want like your rough meal plans of what you're doing, but also it's like, but I don't want you like, if you're not wanting to like, it doesn't mean you have to, this is all about what works for you. So we've got, you would have seen your, the spreadsheet like this. So you can fit in like, that's just an Excel spreadsheet. So you can just type it in and then just email it through to your coach, but that doesn't have to be filled out like all your, it might be just, you might be saying, okay, I just want to hit my protein. You might write, you might just be having 3 meals a day. And it's just when you're saying 100 grams of chicken here, and you're putting in your protein. So we know what your protein is. And you say, I make up food. It's up to you how crazy you want to be that. If you feel like you're someone that you really, like I said, we feel that want to write it down, then if you want to write down every single thing and send it to us, then great. If you just want to write down your protein and say, well, I'm trying to like every day it's gonna be slightly different, but I might have a right one day, you know what I mean? Like you can use it and play around as much as you want to. But the main thing is the first week or two, you probably will find that you probably need to maybe weigh a couple of things or, you know, scans and some things on MyFitnessPal. If you haven't used MyFitnessPal, it is great, but same with everything, it can still be like a little bit incorrect in a lot of the things.
Yeah.
So the more you can scan it, the better. So you'll see on MyFitnessPal, there's a little scanner, like you can scan like all meat from like Safeway's got it on there. So like scan your foods and then you can just change the quantity that you're having and just weigh everything you do is kind of like do it raw. So if you've got like a kilo of chicken, then and you scanned it and you 200 grams, just divide that roughly by 5. There's 200 grams. Don't have to like be crazy. A kilo is 5 meals. You know what I mean? Don't like, you don't have to like be, because it wouldn't really matter. The food's over an entire week. So it didn't matter if one day you had 150, the other day you had 220. Like it will kind of even out a little bit. So you can kind of just roughly divide it by 5.
And like Das was saying, like he eats the same meals every single day. Like you're going to have a couple of go-to meals. Your brekkie might be the exact same every day. So you're only going to have to plug those calories in once. So if you've got a couple of go-to meals that you are happy to eat on a daily basis, figure it out to a T or as close to a T as
And you can save it as a meal.
And you save it. And then,
Add
and
it.
so once I think, like I just use it as a little learning tool. So if I'm eating something different, I'll plug it in, figure it out. And every time I have that meal, if you know, you figure out your portions, you know now, you don't have to plug it in again and again and again, but just for the go-tos. And that way it just will reduce your workload as far as feeling like you got to plug something in every 2 seconds. Have a couple of go-tos where you just know how many calories in that meal. And then you only got to figure out the random ones that are a little bit different and just.
And if you
make it easy.
are more about, I'm like an old school, so it does more like a paper writing person, like you don't really want to use my fitness pal, like put it in there and then have a little booklet, and it's got like maybe like 3 different breakfast options that you have, and you kind of have it in there. But what I don't want just calories. I really want you guys to think about your protein. So some of you may have like set breakfasts, and some of you might like, I think it was you, Jared, I think you were telling me a smoothie that you were eating, and there was just like carb, and carb, and I was like, good, but there's like, it's just carbs. So like the body, if we're gonna, so it's just understanding that like what you're having, there's calories are one thing, but protein's another, because the protein's what's going to keep you full, it's going to help you recover. It makes us more satisfied. It burns the most amount of calories to break down. So like our body actually uses the most amount of calories to actually use up the energy of protein. So just trying to like get in those proteins as much as you possibly can, and also understanding, which we will go through on Saturday, but what food is like fruit and vegetables are still a carbohydrate. Like all carbs are good for us. So carbs are not bad. We're going to get that out of your head. Carbs are not bad, but understanding that carbs are still, if you don't use up the fuel sources of carbs, they will turn into fat. Yep. So they're not bad, but understanding if you're having like a salad and you're like, oh, I was really good, I had a salad, but you had rice, chickpeas, sweet potato inside the salad is pretty much just a bowl of carbs. Yeah, so like just understanding what is a carb, what is a fat, and what is a protein, and making sure you're getting those things in there. So if you like lentils, have lentils and chicken, which is bloody awesome. You get double whammy versus chicken and rice. So you get double, if you so things
We're
like
wanting
that.
everyone to have protein with pretty much
every meal.
every meal. We'd love to see a protein.
Otherwise, you probably won't hit.
So it's like
You think
have
if
your
you don't?
smoothie, right? And then chuck a big scoop of protein in with it. Beautiful. Keep it exactly the same.
20
Same goes
grams,
to
25
oats. I
grams.
know so
That's
many
plenty.
people who start their day with a big bowl of oats, and it's like,
With
are you-
fruit.
and it's like, you have blueberries and stuff, and blueberries are fantastic for you. But it's like, are you going to go and utilize, carbs are our primary energy source, obviously. And it's like, are you about to go and utilize those carbohydrates, or are you just going to go and sit at a desk? It's like, no, well, let's try and introduce some protein to start our day off. And your carbohydrates super crucial for, energy and to fuel us, but protein needs to be the priority, and we need to try and find a way to include it in every meal. Otherwise, that'll be a big part in where we struggle to hit our protein targets. You have a big bowl of oats for brekkie in the morning. Well, now the onus is on you to hit your protein target between maybe 2 or 3 meals throughout the day, because you've just missed one meal with zero grams of protein. And it gets harder and harder the less meals and the less frequently you eat with protein to hit those targets as the day goes on. So trying to include it in every single meal, small amount, whatever, the more frequently you can consume it, the better.
So how do you know what?
Well, we're going to go through that on
Oh,
Saturday. So pretty much we're going to do most people about 2 times their body weight. So that's kind of where we sit, and then we'll explain to you how do they work it out, because that doesn't mean, so just say if you weigh 70 kilos, 140 grams of protein, but that doesn't mean you have 140 grams of
So
meat.
you said in the message to me, minimum 160 grams of protein.
Yes, sir.
What would be a maximum?
I don't
Is
want,
there-
I've set your calories. So this is just Joel personally, and this is not for everyone. I've
Sorry.
set here, no, not at all. So because everyone will have their own thing, and they'll ask. So your protein is set at a little under double your body weight. So
Right.
primarily we're trying to lose a little bit of body fat.
Yeah.
As far as a maximum goes, I wouldn't want you to send it absolutely anywhere past, say, 200, but I want you to have that little bit of freedom, because protein is obviously going to fuel your recovery, and your calories are low enough that a little bit of excess protein isn't going to
Okay.
skew your trajectory massively. But everyone will be different. So for example, like Reese, I want him having more because he's trying to add muscle. For others, extra protein, like more is not necessarily always better when we're focusing on a calorie deficit. If our focus is weight loss and you're going, protein, that's excess calories that you may not need. Less may be sufficient for your recovery and your needs.
You might find that you are someone, just adding to that, exactly like saying that, you might find that you're someone that you like train really hard, you train really well. Most people would with more carbohydrates, but if you're more of a calorie deficit and you're trying to get too much protein and that's taking up some of your calories, there's less calories left over for like the carbs. So the carbs might make you feel better to train harder, and therefore training harder is going to build more muscle, make you go harder, burn more calories overall. So you want to make sure you've so it's just kind of fun. That's what I'm saying. It's finding what works for you. So we want to at least hit our minimum protein that we kind of need. And the thing is, we're not doing minimum. We're doing like 2 times your body weight. Like that's the daily recommended amount in Australia is ridiculous. It's like 0.6 times, which is it's so low that it's like the amount of things you're deficient in for that is fucked. Just don't ever stick to that. But so if you hit, you're a little bit under two times, that's still great. For a female 1.8, like, you know what I mean? So we've put you at a number that's high enough that it's great. Even if you're a little bit under that, you're still at a great number. But it's making sure you're getting in enough of the other foods that make you feel good to train hard, because the training still does make a difference, because the more muscle you have in your body, the faster your metabolism moves overall, and the overall calories you burn overall as a person. So generally, if you see someone has a higher resting metabolic rate, so what your body burns at rest, is someone that will have a higher amount of muscle. So Coop's resting metabolic rate would be, you sitting without a top on, would be like,
Get it off.
you know? Okay, would be up to the roof there, because he has a lot of muscle and he's lean, right? So generally he'll have a higher, so that's where muscle, like training still, yes, food, but training is like a big part of it. Okay, so like I want you to have energy to train. I don't want you coming in here like dragging your feet. Go home, have a rest day, think about your food, and then come, you know what I mean? Like that's still important out there. Yeah.
And it wasn't until last thing, obviously we can keep going in circles and keep talking about this page, but it wasn't until honestly the last year and a half that I've really started to jot down and like sort of track what I eat every now and then. I've never felt better. I've honestly never had more energy. My results in the gym have never been better. My weights have gone up in everything, like every single thing I've wanted to, my recovery, since I've just been tracking my food at a very basic level. Literally what you guys will be doing, just understanding what to hit and like where you are. My body, honestly, everything, sleep, everything. So honestly, it'll be interesting, not so much just your results, obviously, at the end of the challenge, but how you're feeling will be a massive one. Because I guarantee, like, obviously, we're here like pretty much every morning, night, like constantly. I'm rarely tired. I honestly feel good all the time, just because I know everything I'm putting into my body is going to help me. So yeah, so it'll be interesting. Like I said, we'll play around with it. Same with MyFitnessPal, all that sort of stuff. If anything's going to be ahead, we'll be able to go individually and we'll be able to set most of that up on Saturday for you. This is more just so